We got a major Juan Soto update to bring to you guys, and the Blue Jays are really starting to gain traction on that front. So we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as a signing, a massive signing, the one that we've all been waiting for. We'll break that down to much more coming up next. Welcome in, everybody, to Jays Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And Nick, before I ask anyone to subscribe, before we get into the Juan Soto business, I want you to showcase the signing that the Toronto Blue Jays got just a couple of hours ago at the time of the recording. And Wilfredo Cordero, the signing that we were all waiting for, the headliner of the Major League Baseball offseason, is coming home to Toronto. What a signing. Nick, pull up his stats for me.
Yeah, we'll
Let's
get
take
into. I think the
a
signing
look at
happened
these
late
things.
last night, but I mean, it's only gaining traction now, and obviously, he was a minor league signing, of course. That we were joking with the massive signing. He had a 43 ERA in 2023 with the Rangers. But jokes aside, Peter, we will dive into the Soto stuff in a minute here. Make sure to subscribe button. But they signed Wilfredo Cordero, and he's been assigned to the Dominican League, and obviously the stats aren't great. He put up a 5 ERA. He is only 20 years old, but they're making moves already. He's going to be a part of the Dominican Summer League Blue Jays. So if you're watching that part of it, it'll be interesting. And again, per the transaction page, they made their first signing of the offseason,
Okay.
Wilfredo Cordero.
He looks good in that picture. He looks good in that picture. But don't come after us in the comments. We just wanted to switch things up a little bit. It's been all Juan Soto, Juan Soto. We didn't want to shove that down your guys' throat, so we thought that we'd throw some lighthearted stuff in there at the beginning of this video. And Nick, let's just get down to business because I'm sure people don't want to hear about Wilfredo Cordero, whether he pans out or not. I don't think that is
A
the
great
number one,
name, though.
a great name, Wilfredo Cordero. I can get used to saying that over and over again. Might be a little bit hard, but again, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video here, which is Juan Soto. And Nick, it's starting to heat up. We got notable analysts that are coming out and saying that the Blue Jays are firmly entrenched in the mix. We don't know how deep those conversations have gone, not only with the Blue Jays, but with every other team. All the information has been sort of close to the chest of Juan Soto and Scott Boras, and we haven't. We've gotten new news, but we haven't gotten groundbreaking news as of yet. And I think Juan Soto wants it that way. He wants this whole process to drag itself out for him to milk as much money as he can out of the organization that he's going to sign with. And the Blue Jays, against all odds, are right there in the mix yet again. Feels like Groundhog Day, same old story here, but is it different this time around? I don't know, Nick. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's a very interesting scenario. So John Heyman came out yesterday, as the time of recording this. We're recording it a little bit at a different time than usual, but John Heyman was on a MLB Network or a New York TV show or whatever you want to call it, and they basically asked him who they think, what's the current situation with Soto. And you can see it here. I'd say the Mets followed by the Blue Jays would be my guess today. And if you actually watch the article and interview by John or on John Heyman basically says that he is fairly confident that Soto is going to go to the suitor who gives them the most money, and that the Blue Jays at this point are right there alongside Steve Cohen because of Edward Rogers' ability and capability to spend. But I'll get your opinion on that in a second. But if you rewind back to last offseason, the Shohei Ohtani, as much as we joke and we hate on John Heyman for the arson judge stuff and all the couple of bad reporting to the Giants that he had in the past, when it came to Shohei Ohtani, he never really gave the Jays any credit, to really being a part of it. And he was kind of always on the side of he's going to go to the Dodgers. And he ultimately ended up doing that. But this time around, it's very different. Heyman's actually giving Toronto, I'm not going to say some love, but he's putting them firmly in the mix over and over again, like a lot of analysts are. So I find this specifically intriguing because, again, Heyman didn't do this with the Ohtani stuff, and he doesn't like Toronto. It's a pretty obvious thing
Yeah.
based on his past, but his reporting here, and as much as you hate him, he's usually pretty spot on with stuff like this, albeit he has messed up in the past. But really, since that Judge to the Giants situation, he's been pretty, I mean, I don't like the guy, at least, I don't like him as a reporter, but he's been pretty accurate with his reports as of late.
Yeah, well, I think he's a great reporter. I just think he's public enemy number one in Canada alongside John Morosi for the fiasco that he pulled last offseason. But John Heyman, very credible and as plugged in as pretty much anybody in the Major League Baseball world. So yeah, I don't love him as a person because of what he said about the Toronto Blue Jays and saying that free agents should always go to New York, or high profile free agents should always go to New York or to Los Angeles because it's good for baseball. Like, yeah, it was nice to see two huge teams, two big market teams in the World Series, but that gets boring. And as pure baseball fans like us, Nick, I kind of appreciated a Diamondbacks Texas Rangers World Series. I know the ratings didn't really say that, but I liked it. I appreciated seeing the Texas Rangers win for the first time. I liked seeing the 84 win Diamondbacks get to the World Series and shock the world. That is what baseball is all about. You play 162 games in the regular season, and it doesn't really matter. The only goal is to get to the playoffs and then get hot once you get there. The Arizona Diamondbacks missed the playoffs this season. That just shows you how crazy baseball can truly be, and you never know what's going to happen, which is why I like to keep the parity alive in the league. I don't like to see all of the big time free agents go to the Yankees, obviously, because I'm a Blue Jay fan, and I don't want to see them all go to the Dodgers either, because then what's the point of playing the season if you're just going to have an all MLB lineup every single night? So that is why people don't like John Heyman. It's because he favors the big market teams. But yeah, apart from that arson judge thing that happened a couple of years ago, he rarely misses with what he says, and he doesn't say garbage. He doesn't lie. He usually doesn't lie. So I would take this as a massive indicator that the Blue Jays are in this thing, and they're in this thing all the way, and they're going to try to get Juan Soto no matter what. I don't know if Edward Rogers is going to be able to go toe to toe with Steve Cohen. He can, but I don't know if he's going to be willing to go to the lengths that Steve Cohen will to get him. But the fact, and we've been saying this over and over again, Nick, the fact that they're so early in the offseason and they're already locked in on Soto, it just shows that there are some backup plans in place for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and again, it comes from his report the other day, and we covered it in yesterday's video. Edward Rogers, one of the richest owners in baseball, and is extremely motivated here, and John Heyman on that. And again, if you read and watch the actual thing, he has the Jays firm as number two. He says he has the Mets as the favorite right now, with the Blue Jays at number two, and he acknowledges that Yankees fans might be a little bit apprehensive and upset about that, but it's strictly because, obviously, if it's strictly a budget thing, I don't see the Yankees outbidding the Mets or the Blue Jays. Just on the way they operated in the past, we've seen how he hasn't wanted to go above and beyond a ton of money compared to other teams. That's why they almost eventually lost Aaron Judge. But it's interesting. We know, of course, yesterday Juan Soto declined the qualifying offer. Wasn't a surprise at all. But now, of course, it means that if the Jays do go ahead and, hopefully sign Juan Soto, they'll give up a pick. Doesn't matter at all. They will gladly surrender a pick in the third round. I think it ended up being whatever it ends up being for Juan Soto. But yeah, I mean, he declined the qualifying offer. No surprise there at all. It's just funny. John Heyman, this won't shock too many people. But ultimately, I'm pretty confident he's already met with the Jays, Mets, Red Sox, and Yankees, and he's meeting with the Dodgers on Tuesday, and the Phillies are going to meet with him as well. The Jays are firmly in the mix, and a decision, according to Jeff Passan, is going to happen in all likelihood before winter meetings, so before December 6th, which, Peter, that's only around 3 weeks away. 2 weeks away. 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah, Nick, and let me ask you this. How much of last offseason is weighing on Edward Rogers and the rest of the Blue Jays ownership group? The fact that they missed out on Shohei and that the entire country was bamboozled by a couple of false reports. How much does that motivate Ed Rogers going into these negotiations? Does that mean that there is nothing that's going to stop him, that he's seeing red in front of him like a bull? Or like what do you think about that? Because I think that maybe has a little part to play as well in how far they're going to go in these negotiations. The
Yeah,
fact that they came second last year.
yeah, you see this report, and if you rewind back to the Ohtani stuff, this report was never a thing with the Toronto Blue Jays. We weren't getting reports saying that Edward Rogers is we knew he was going to spend big, and we know there was a separate allocated budget according to Shai Davidi. But this year, it's every reporter saying the Jays are going to bid extremely high. We saw Ben Nicholson Smith say $700 million. Like, Whether it's because of the new renovations or the fact they missed out on Ohtani, maybe a mix of both. But for the first time in a very, I mean, ever really, for a very, very long time, I mean, ever, because no team was spending $600 million a few years ago. But it's at the point now where if they miss out on Juan Soto, I am fairly confident in saying it's because of not, the Jays' lack of ability or lack of effort, but because of just the fact that Juan Soto either wanted to go to New York, or maybe Steve Cohen does some crazy $750 to $800 million offer, in which, I mean, if we get reports that the Jays were willing to offer $750 to $800 and he chose New York, it is what it is. But I don't know. I'm a lot more confident. Realistically, we should probably be more confident in their ability to get Soto than we were Ohtani. But because we got led on so far, it's a bit, fans are a bit apprehensive there. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Ultimately, again, I don't think my prediction would be, again, it's always been that he's going to land with the Mets. But the Jays being number 2, and I'm excited for the betting odd, stuff to get on the go when we see them going up and down. If you're following that, the Jays have already jumped a significant amount in the betting odds from opening line or whatever that was. But it's going to happen it's all over again, Peter. And
Yeah.
this time it seems like even if they strike out on Soto, they're going to spend a lot of money. Not $600 million, but hopefully go for one of the big players.
Yeah, and they should. They need to because last season was a colossal failure, and that cannot happen again, especially with the uncertainty surrounding Vladdy and Bo heading into free agency after next season. I mean, you are in a tough spot right now if you're the Blue Jays. Right now, I look at them and I see a team that is just mired in mediocrity, a team that doesn't really have a direction that they're going in because as it stands, they're very far away from being a contender, and they're not really rebuilding either because they have an aging rotation. Their prospect pool is not loaded whatsoever. It's actually one of the worst in baseball. So there's no clear direction that they can go in right here. The best course of action, in my opinion, is to spend money and just try to win with some major additions because apart from that, it's looking pretty bleak. Like I like some of the names that are in the farm system. I think that they can turn into quality big leaguers, but I don't see an out and out star in the making there. Maybe Trey Savage or maybe Arelvis Martinez. Those are two names that have been brought up multiple times that sit atop of the Blue Jays farm system. But apart from those two guys, do you see anybody in the prospect system turning into a superstar, someone that could have a kind of career trajectory like Vladdy or like Bo? I don't see it. I don't see it personally. So for me, the only option this offseason is to spend and to spend big. Enough of this patchwork, enough of trying to win with just Vladdy and Bo and George Springer. It's not good enough. It's been proven time and time again now that those three guys are not a good enough nucleus to lead you to where you want to be, which is ultimately in the World Series or playing deep into the playoffs or at least winning a playoff game the way that the Blue Jays have been trending. So spend big, and I think that is the best plan of attack here for the Blue Jays in the offseason. There's no other way to go about it. The farm system sucks. The current team is not great. Pick a side here.
Yeah, it's their last chance. It is their last chance. And if they strike out on Soto, if they strike out on even a guy like Bregman, or I mean, Bregman's a bit less intriguing, but even then, Bregman, Max Fried, they have to change something or else I don't know where they'd go from here if they strike out. This is their last chance to get a big player in free agency. They had Ohtani last year, and we joked about it in the stream when Ohtani signed with the Dodgers that, well, we have next year for them to get Soto. And now we're back here in reality, and
Yeah.
everything is going to come to a conclusion in the next really probably month or so because as Soto gets signed, like we saw last offseason, things will follow, and hopefully this year it isn't Kevin Kiermaier and Justin Turner. Well, it won't be Kevin Kiermaier, but hopefully not Justin Turner. No disrespect to him, but that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are on this. A lot of stuff going on, and let us know what your thoughts are on the the Wilfredo Cordero signing. And here's a quick peek at his 43 ERA in
Leave us
2023.
alone in the comments, please. It wasn't that serious, wasn't.
Let us know, and we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.